morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. Today is a very good episode. I was so happy with all the stories that came together. I was like, is it going to be slow after Comic-Con? The answer, no. I love all three stories today. I think they're all exciting. Usually the third story is like a quiet businessy story. Today, all three bang up stories. All right, so let's get started then. As you can see from the lineup, we have some nice things to talk about. All right, so first up, Harry Potter. Now, we've often discussed or wondered why Warner Brothers doesn't put somebody in charge of their DC Cinematic Universe, kind of the counterpart to Kevin Feige, who runs the Marvel Cinematic Universe, obviously. They have yet to do this. I guess David Goyer is supposed to kind of be in charge along with Zack Snyder, but they filled the Joss Whedon role. You need a suit who's looking out for the best interests of the company and the brand, not, with all due respect to artists, you need to have, you need to balance it out. Checks and balances. You need to have someone who's worried about the properties creatively and someone who's worried about them from a business standpoint and building the brand and keeping it going. So they're doing this, though, for Harry Potter. Yes, they've announced they've established the Harry Potter Global Franchise Development Team, or HPGFD for short. Harry Potter Global Franchise Development. And the man in charge, you're probably going to be hearing his name a lot after this, if this works correctly, is Josh Berger, and he is currently the head of Warner Brothers in the UK, Ireland, and Spain, a job that he will maintain while also running the Harry Potter Global Franchise Development Team. That seems like a weird choice right off the bat to me. I'd be like, either you're on this team or you're not, especially if you're supposed to be leading it, but the team is quite large. They announced a lot of people on it, but still, maybe they don't know if it'll work. So they're like, okay, Josh, you don't have to give up your current job. And maybe, because of where he's located and what he focuses on, he's really tapped into that market, which of course is where Harry Potter originated from, and I think still draws a lot of its strength. So what will he be overseeing? He's going to be overseeing the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them film, which JK Rowling is screenwriting. She's writing the screenplay for that. She's a new level in her career. Also, he's going to be overseeing the theme parks. That includes the studio tour in London, Leavesden Studios, which Warner Brothers purchased. Then also the Orlando theme park, which recently expanded into Diagon Alley. Loved it. I was there myself, opening day. And then also the park they just opened in Japan. Japan has a Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Hello, Asia! Yes, more and more movie studios, as you can see, are moving into that space. By the way, if this is coming through today, I apologize. There's some construction going on, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm sorry. But it shouldn't be too bad. All right, so then, let's see. Also, he'll be overseeing the digital services and products that they're doing for Harry Potter, which includes JK Rowling's Pottermore site. Bet you didn't know Warner Brothers controlled that. And then also a Harry Potter stage play. The expansion continues. Yes, the play, they say it's going to go up on London's West End next year. Now, my big question is, can the Harry Potter universe continue to grow so exponentially, by the way, into such new areas like the stage without more books from Rowling? Now, of course, she recently wrote a short story where Harry Potter and company showed up for the Quidditch World Cup, made quite a bit of fanfare, and I think that considering the fact they've sucked her back in. Remember after Deathly Hallows, she was like, no more, I'm going to go write adult books. Well, none of those adult books did particularly well, certainly not the level of Harry Potter, certainly not the level of some of the best-known adult authors. And then, of course, Kevin Tsujihara comes by and says, how'd you like to become a screenwriter, JK? And she goes, sounds pretty good, Kevin. And so she's writing the script for Fantastic Beasts, and he gave him the green light to make that movie. So I can definitely see a situation where she writes more books. So I'm curious as to what kind of books you would like to see her write. The adventures of adult Harry Potter, new characters like Newt Scamander. He's going to be the focus of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. So spin-off, like maybe other characters that exist in different time periods, just further expanding that universe. Also, I think this is very interesting. Who's going to play Harry Potter in that stage play? Daniel Radcliffe and company have become so entrenched in people's minds as those characters. Do you think that, and they even come back and they shoot scenes for these rides at the theme parks, etc. Do you think that Warner Brothers could successfully make these evergreen roles, that others can, don the mantle? Something that I think Marvel's going to have to contend with soon themselves as well. Warner Brothers has been able to do it with Batman and Superman, obviously, and I'm curious to see if you think, and James Bond, of course, very successfully does this. We argue whether or not Indiana Jones can have this situation. I say no. I say there's only one Indiana Jones, and it's Harrison Ford. But maybe someday someone might change my mind. Never say never. And I'm curious how you guys feel about somebody else playing Harry Potter, the boy who lived. All right, so that's the first story of the day. The second story is, as you might recall, during Comic-Con, I covered the news, and a lot of people did actually, obviously, because it was big news, that Evangeline Lilly's character in Ant-Man would be called Hope Van Dyne. Now, there was some confusion as to whether or not she was Hope Pym or Hope Van Dyne, but they've confirmed it via Marvel that it's Hope Van Dyne, even though she's Hank Pym's daughter. So that might lead you to think that maybe they got divorced, Janet Van Dyne and Hank Pym, and considering their spousal abuse history, that totally could be the case. And it would be interesting if Marvel were to address that. But still, people are not pleased. Now, some people are. Now, let me first start saying where this Hope name came from. As some of you very correctly pointed out, I was, getting coverage up during Comic-Con. I'm not familiar with the A-Next movie and that kind of Avengers universe of, children. Some of you are, though, and you pointed out that in that the pages of Marvel Comics in that area, in the Avengers second generation, third generation, there is a character named Evangeline Hope. I don't know if that can't be right. Evangeline Lilly, Evangeline Hope. What are the odds? But anyway, a character named Hope, who is the daughter of Hank Pym, and is a villain. So there's some speculation that maybe Evangeline Lilly will be playing a villain. Well, if Marvel thinks they have a problem now just changing the name, imagine if they change the Wasp to a villain. I think that could go very poorly for them. So why do I know that people are upset about this and why it's continuing? Well, as you might have seen on Twitter, a very popular hashtag is Janet Van Crime. People saying it is an outright crime that Marvel Studios would disrespect the only female founding member of the Avengers. She wasn't in the original Avengers movie. Now she's going to be not even in the second Avengers film. She's going to be popping up in Ant-Man first, which, by the way, they totally robbed the whole Ultron storyline from him to give to Robert Downey Jr. And now not only will she not keep her name, Janet Van Dyne, but is she going to potentially be a villain instead of the Wasp? People are just, I think comic book fans are very upset. And I think rightly so, because, nobody changed Bruce Banner's name or Tony Stark's name or Steve Rogers' name or Natasha Romanoff's name. Everybody has their original name. So why can't Janet Van Dyne? Why can't if they want to make him a daughter, give a daughter to Michael Douglas, why can't it be Janet Van Dyne? Just change the relationship from marital to paternal, although that is kind of weird. I don't know. The whole thing, I think, is quite a bunch of odd choices, and I think it is disrespectful to a founding member of the team. Now, Marvel Studios might go, hey, look, she might be a founding member of the team, but she's not particularly popular. Nobody particularly likes the Wasp. And I would say, so what, Marvel Studios? Nobody particularly liked Iron Man. Nobody particularly liked the Mandarin. Although they looked at the changes they made there, and you would think they would learn from their mistakes with that scenario. But nobody liked, everybody was saying that the Marvel heroes that they had left after they sold the rights to Spider-Man and X-Men and Fantastic Four were like the B or C team. But Marvel still, they made it work. And I think I think Evangeline Lilly is brilliantly cast as Janet Van Dyne. Who knows how well she's cast as Hope Van Dyne. So I just think the Janet Van Crime thing is a very interesting choice, and I think it continues to show a little bit of a growing trend of a fan base maybe taking, Marvel to task and saying, you're not untouchable, you can't do whatever you want, you do have some responsibility to the fans and to the source material, and don't forget that that's why you're on top in the first place, because you did have that respect for the fans and the source material, so what are you doing ignoring it? So I'm just wondering how you guys feel. Do you think it's as big a deal? Do you like this hashtag Janet Van Crime? What do you think of Hope versus Janet Van Dyne? Do you think that the first female Avenger deserves respect, even if she has not maintained her popularity or never even really had a lot of popularity as a character on the page? All right, so that's the second story of the day. The third story of the day is that I don't know if any of you, I just mentioned over Comic-Con that there's the D23 Expo, and that Disney's being very aggressive about saving their big announcements for their own convention. It's every other year in August out in Anaheim at Disneyland. I've attended, I've gone. It's getting better. When it first started out, they didn't have a lot of reveals. They didn't have a lot of cool stuff to look at, and perhaps they realized that, and of course, infamously, even the year before this, they saved a lot of their big announcements for D23 as opposed to Comic-Con, and this is where they talk all of their Disney animation, Pixar included. This is where they talked a lot about Maleficent, Cinderella. It's a big platform for them. However, D23 is also a membership opportunity, and you can become a D23 member. What do you get? Well, if you live anywhere near Disneyland and the Disney studios in Los Angeles and Burbank, you can get access to cool studio tours, etc. I was a member for a little while, largely because I wanted the D23 magazine. It comes out 4 times a year, and it's an absolutely beautiful publication. So to me, at first, that was worth the price. I actually ended up discontinuing it because the magazine didn't always come on time. It also is printed on a very really chemically paper, and I was just like, this magazine kind of smells funny, it's expensive, it only comes out 4 times a year, I'm going to skip it. And also, I can't go to any of the cool events because I don't live in that area. But you can join if you want. And also, if you just want to pick up the D23 magazine, you can do that, I believe, at a Disney store. Now, Disney stores are dwindling in their numbers, but if you can still find one, I think you can purchase just the D23 magazine. And the reason you're going to want to purchase it is because in mid-August, the next issue comes out, and they're going to have a big article behind the scenes of Once Upon a Time, where it reveals that not only are they going to introduce the Frozen characters into this season with Elsa, Anna, Kristoff, and now Hans. Hans was just cast. But it's going to take up the entire season. It's going to be an entire season's worth of Frozen storylines or storyline. This isn't going to be a 1 or 2 episode arc. This is for an entire season where Once Upon a Time will basically become the Frozen show. And I'm very curious as to how you feel about that. This is how Disney chooses to capitalize on the property. I think the Frozen Summer Fun event going on in Hollywood Studios right now, which I also saw when I was in Florida, was quite good. I thought that was very well done. But I don't know how I feel about bringing them onto the live action show so quickly. And for an entire season. I mean, they could do a lot of damage if they don't do it correctly. So at least I hope, hopefully, Jennifer Lee, who co-directed the film and is largely responsible for a lot of it creatively, is watching it like a hawk, because they had a lot of problems with Frozen, as we all know. This came out in February, but it was recently I saw online. I'll put a link in the video description to a prior scene with Kristoff when his character was totally different, much more self-interested, not the selfless character that he did become. So you can see the grasping in the dark for a story here, and how much they did that didn't make it into the final cut. Not only was it cut, but it was just the characters totally restructured. So if they don't have that strong a grasp on Frozen themselves over in Disney Animation, how can they possibly hope to pass the ball over to Disney live-action television with Once Upon a Time? And also, for those of you who watch Once Upon a Time, do you trust this creative team to take the ball and run with it? Or would you be like, you're crazy, just focus on the theatrical play that they want to make, and maybe a Frozen 2, something. Frozen should be very valuable to them. So that's the third story of the day. Now, the viewer question comes from Connor Coleman. And Connor says, question, smiley face. Hey Grace, love the show, and I've asked a question before, but I feel this might be worthy of your answer. Correct! Lately we've seen CGI-heavy movies, Maleficent, Avatar, etc. But news about Scarlet, so basically like Avatar, I think you can see in those reasons why they're CGI. But Connor is concerned, because Connor continues, but news about Scarlett Johansson in Avengers 2 being CGI'd, and that she is made thinner because she's pregnant, and having her face put on stunt doubles is scaring me. If they can CGI her face onto something else, what does that mean for the future of acting? Will it all become CGI? Curious to hear your thoughts on this. As always, love to hear what my favorite YouTuber has to say. 6 smileys, I'm stepping it up. And then a little winky smiley face. Excellent, Connor. Oh, and then thanks, Connor, and a heart. Wow, Connor, you are very good with the emoticons. Kudos to you. So, Connor, great question, and I think this ties into a lot of what's going on. Josh Brolin, of course, showed up at the Comic-Con panel. There's the big reveal at the end. They're like, Josh Brolin! And he's going to be an entirely animated character for them, via motion capture. And I think that, Connor, the fear that you have is shared by the Academy and by a lot of actors, because I think that's why you're seeing such a resistance to accepting fully motion capture acting, despite the leaps and bounds that are being made with it. And then Andy Serkis and company, Benedict Cumberbatch, Mark Ruffalo in the upcoming Avengers 2, and hopefully Josh Brolin, that a lot of very high caliber talent is showing that there is an art to it, and that they do have an effect on the final product. Now, still, even so, I saw a number of you in the comments say you're wrong, it's mostly the special effects team. So it's an interesting marriage there of credit and who's responsible for what. But then when you see an animated character, how important is the voice of that animated character versus I think Idina Menzel, for instance, let's go back to Frozen, is crucial to the success of not only the film, not only Elsa, but the film itself, because of her very strong musical theater fan base, and how good a job she did singing that song. Let's face it, because otherwise Elsa did not have a lot of dialogue. She just basically sang that song. But Idina Menzel, that's what she does. She sings amazingly. I mean, I'm not actually a huge fan of that kind of Broadway style of music, but I have to give it to her. She did a fantastic job with Let It Go. So I do think that actors shouldn't be so scared of this, because there clearly are contributing to the final project. And they, what's the problem with sharing a little? This also speaks to the Hollywood culture of actors are being the center of attention. It's all the actors. The actors do everything. Everybody else is just there to serve the actors. And I think that's really a harmful attitude to take. I think it's disrespectful to everybody else who works on a film at every level. Filmmaking is a team effort, and I think that perhaps actors don't like maybe some of the power going away. If they're not solely responsible, for instance, for a film doing well at the box office anymore, if they're not seen as the sole thing that's bringing people in, well, their paychecks start to go down. It's all a very interesting question. So, Connor, I think there's definitely changes going ahead. I don't think you're going to see CGI actors just yet, though, in terms of human form beyond necessities like Scarlett Johansson's pregnant, but we need to keep filming. I think the reason is because they haven't fixed the Uncanny Valley problem yet, and I think that also people still want to see real people in a movie. I think that this is going to come into changing the kind of roles people can play. You can play an ape. You can play an alien dictator, Thanos. You can play a dragon. Benedict Cumberbatch Smaug was the coolest character in the Desolation of Smaug. And that's all Cumberbatch. And I think he should have gotten more credit for that. And it's a shame, as I've said before, that pictures of him motion capturing the dragon and how he was able to do motion. How do you motion capture a dragon, right? He's crawling around on all fours. I mean, that should have been made more public. So that I think that that's just going to expand what actors can play. For instance, they want to do a live-action Little Mermaid movie. That's going to rely heavily on special effects, but I think it could be really well done, especially after that mermaid sequence in Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. So I wouldn't be scared, Connor. I would just, it's going to be a little bumpy. There'll be some turbulence with this transition, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to make for better movies, and I think it's going to expand the tool set for actors and what they can do. I mean, Andy Serkis is certainly well known. So if actors are worried about getting credit and their fame and fortune, just remember Serkis is not only very well known, but being paid quite a lot of money these days. Just for his performance alone, as well as the side business he set up, helping other actors to do just as good a job with their motion capture acting. So that's today's morning movie news. Very interrupted, loud morning movie news. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please write down below what you think of today's top 3 stories and the viewer question. Anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow, and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.